wondered what blistering barnacles were? Or imagine a thundering typhoon? Then, when you put it in the context of the old sea dog Captain Haddock, you can't help but doff your hat off to the creator and not to forget the translator of this marvelous series. Something we all grew up with and still grow up with no matter how old we are. I look through my collection of the Tintin series yet once again, and once more I ask you, what makes a classic? Well, among other things, a sense of timelessness. The feeling that even when you're looking it for the nth time, it still feels like the first. Yes, you may have read the Tintin series over and over, but the well-thumbed pages never seem to fail to give you a rush every time you check it out. The same sense of anticipation never lessens.
Hey everyone, so today we'll be talking about Tintin. Tintin is one of the most recognizable figures in literary history. He has appeared in over 24 albums and over countless theatre productions. He's also appeared in radio shows, films, TV series, cartoons, and many more. He's created by Belgian cartoonist Georges Remy, better known by his pen name Hergé. The series was one of the most popular European comics of the 20th century. By 2007, a century after Hergé's birth in 1907, Tintin had been published in more than 70 languages with sales of more than 200 million copies. What's a great character without its supporting characters? Tintin is accompanied by his faithful dog Snowy, the filth-spewing old sea dog Captain Haddock. Hergé was considering names for this new character, so he asked his wife what she had cooked for dinner, and she said, a sad English fish, haddock. That's how Captain Haddock's name originated. To be precise, the Thompson Twins, as one introduces himself as Thompson with a P as in psychology and one without a P as in Venezuela. The inspiration for the Thompson Twins came from Hergé's father and his uncle, who wore similar suits, hats, and walking sticks. And last but definitely not the least, the absent-minded professor, the one who is just hard of hearing, Professor Cuthbert Calculus. Calculus is partially modeled after inventor Auguste Piccard.
The Tintin series has often been criticized for housing racist and right-wing reactionary viewpoints. Two prime examples could be that of the first two Tintin albums, Tintin in the Land of Soviets and Tintin in the Congo. The former was a blatant criticism of communism, while the latter was filled with racist panels to the point that certain sketches had to be altered. In Tintin in the Congo, you will see what many call the white man's burden. Tintin's role as a teacher of the Congolese children is reflective of the wider view that whites had become the tutors of Africans. Indeed, many imperialist references come through Tintin himself, particularly through his resemblance to Henry Morton Stanley. Things changed with the Blue Lotus, where Hergé challenges xenophobic tendencies, where the character of Tintin develops a newfound friendship with a young Chinese boy who he befriends during the course of the adventure. Hergé's friendship and collaboration with Jesuit-educated Chang Chon-chen represented a virtual epiphany for the Belgian artist. Chang introduced Hergé to Chinese art and, most importantly, the political climate of China. This friendship led Hergé to strive for a far greater degree of realism than in previous albums. He also adopted not only stylistic elements from Chinese line drawing, but a sympathetic portrayal of China's plight during the Mukden incident and the subsequent invasion of Manchuria, quite unlike the crude and inaccurate depictions of Russia and the Congo. In Tintin in Tibet, to what many say is the magnum opus of Hergé, his genuine affection for Chang is shown through his fictional creation, and we see an ever-evolving repositioning of his political ideologies and the writer himself going through a revisionist phase. While Blue Lotus tries to foster in the understanding of the Chinese culture, Tintin's role in Tintin in Tibet is resolutely apolitical. Tintin here is more of a traveler, a friend who is in search of another friend. Tintin Comics commercially did exceptionally well. We see a shift in Hergé's right-wing beliefs. The original black and white version of Tintin offers a scathing criticism of capitalist America. Hergé shows the mistreatment of Native Americans. America is also seen as a gangster state where Tintin the hero is kidnapped by Al Capone's men and how he gets entangled in the corrupt underbelly of America. In the Red Sea Sharks, Tintin and Captain Haddock work to rescue African pilgrims from an international people smuggling ring. While according to Hurge, his intentions were noble, the panels make Africans look for a great white hope to save them. The Pidgin, which is modified in the later color editions, merely adds insult to injury. In the likes of Broken Ear as well as Tintin and the Picaros, we see the representation of Latin America via fictional states such as San Theodoros. Hergé was aware that between 1930 and 1934, Latin American countries as being in a continuous state of revolution and counter-revolution. Hergé's geopolitical message is that North American intervention in Latin America is corruptive, whereas modern European influence would be just and super effective. Once again in Picaros, Tintin and his companion Captain Haddock help out the now ousted Alcazar to restore control, but only through a revolution without bloodshed. It seems that for Hurge, it is only through governance based on European values that reasonable and non-violent politics can succeed in this region. Although Tintin had moved on from his Congo adventure, connotations of European superiority are still made apparent through these later comics. Already mentioned, the moon-based adventures take inspiration from the space race era, with the irony being that Europe was nowhere in the space race to begin with. Scholars have stated that Hergé's imaginary neighboring states of Borduria is represented as a dictatorship in pursuit of a superweapon, while Saldavia is portrayed as a traditionalist pastoral kingdom. Oliver Dunnet further clarifies that the overbearing of American villains throughout the series could be as a result of French anti-Americanism, where the values of consumerism, materialism, and the pursuit of money could be seen as a threat to the European man. As if your emerald, Captain Haddock welcomes gypsies onto his ancestral estate, and in Tintin and the Picaros, Tintin even sports a peacenik campaign for nuclear disarmament symbol on his motorcycle helmet. However, this shift in political beliefs is not necessarily left-wing in nature. Through Tintin, Hergé voiced the concerns of a rightist Europe caught between communism and capitalism. Tintin Comics not only speaks about the Belgian identity, but an overall European identity.
Tintin has over 24 published albums, but I'm not going to talk about every one of them because that's going to take an hour or so. So I'll talk about specific books which I feel everyone should know about, and also they are my personal favorites. The scariest is easily The Seven Crystal Balls and its successor, Prisoners of the Sun, where Tintin and Captain Haddock embark on a journey to find Professor Calculus, who has been apparently kidnapped. Very similar to Calculus Affair, but then throw in a lot of supernatural uh, mumbo jumbo and shenanigans. I remember watching this as a child and it really scared the hell out of me because it's got a lot of eerie, creepy kind of thing going on about it. So please check out Seven Crystal Balls and Prisoners of the Sun. Since we mentioned Calculus Affair, I really again need to talk about the actual story, Calculus Affair, which is again is similar. Tintin and Haddock embark on a journey to rescue Calculus, and basically the tonality is a little different. It's a political thriller. It's very fast paced. It's action packed. It's almost like a very intense spy thriller movie. It's mostly based on a Cold War like scenario. And what has happened is Calculus has made a weapon of mass destruction, an ultrasound device which could probably level entire buildings, and government powers are right after him and they kidnap him so that they can attain all his secrets. And Tintin and gang, they're out to get their friend. After all my bantering, you need to check out a Tintin comic because it is an essential. It helps shape an entire generation, and every non-comic book fan can easily pick up a Tintin comic and just be enthralled by the adventure. That's it for today. If you do like what we are doing, give us a like and do subscribe. This is Ren signing off.